Hi everyone, my name is Carmen Beaumont. I'm the Director of Adolescent Psychology. This morning I invited Grace Terrill, who is one of our child psychologists, to talk to us about tips that we can give to parents. One of the things that we know parents are struggling with is ideas and suggestions on what to do in order to keep children active, especially at this time of isolation. It's a struggle enough as it is being a parent, but I think you throw COVID in the mix, it becomes even more of a challenge. So our wonderful psychologists who are very creative, they're always suggesting and supporting and giving tips to our parents. So they came up with the idea of why don't we share that with the community to help as many parents as we can. So, Grace, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, my name's Grace. I'm a psychologist who works with children and adolescents.
Perfect. So, Grace, as I was saying earlier, one of the things that we've noticed is how much parents are struggling with having to wear different hats and juggling, being parents, working from home. Now it's home learning and keeping children active. So our hearts really go to those parents. And we're also finding parents having to in some instances even cut down the working hours to spend time with the children and also interact with the children, and that's also resulting in strain for the parents that we're seeing. So can I pick your brain and for you to share some of the suggestions and tips that you're giving some of our parents, please?
Yeah. So with ways to keep active, I suppose I'd start by encouraging you that it is really important for mental health for kids and for parents to keep active. So even though it can be more difficult to do at the moment, it's a good investment of time, because time spent being active is time spent that also helps to regulate emotions and also helps get a better night's sleep. So it is a good use of time. So there's lots of different ways we can do that. And, 5 weeks into lockdown, you're probably running a bit low on those ideas.
Yes.
For young children in particular who ordinarily we might go out to the playground with, it's particularly hard that the playgrounds haven't been open.
Yes.
So things like making an obstacle course. I've seen some great examples on Facebook of people using things that they found around the house. So it might be a broom, it might be a strong laundry basket, it might be a teddy bear, it might be a hula hoop, and involving children in that and making an obstacle course that involves jumping, hopping, moving sideways, backwards, running, skipping, walking like you're on a tightrope. That can be a way to encourage different types of actions.
And I like that, because that's also encouraging different motor coordination skills. So I think it's very helpful for children. And I love the fact that involving them in making those courses too, it just promotes that collaboration. And children are more likely, I know being a parent myself, getting the children involved in whatever it was that I was doing, the participation from them and commitment to that activity, whatever that activity was, it increases. So that's great.
And children have fabulous imaginations. So you might come up with an obstacle course that involves rescuing their unicorn, and you have to go under the river and over the mountain and through the forest, or You know, on a rainy day, you might put down, use some masking tape or put down a little towel on the ground and have stepping stones, and you're pretending that the floor is lava and don't fall in or don't get eaten by the crocodiles by going across stepping stones. So kids have an amazing sense of humour. And humour can be so refreshing at the moment when we're all under a lot of extra strain.
Yes.
So tap into their interests and their ideas, because then it's not just physical exercise, it's moving your body. It's also about their imagination, their oral language, their cooperation. Maybe we have to work together to rescue that unicorn, and you pass me this and I'll catch that, and we do it as a team.
Yeah, and that can also be storytelling.
Yeah.
So, you know, part of that storytelling could even be a follow-up of that activity. It could even be, as I'm talking to you about it, it could be even putting a book together, a story together. That then you can, you know, and it could just be, depending on how old the children are, it could just be pictures, drawings, little objects of leaves or words. I'm also, you just reminded me when I was little, pretending that the clothes that were drying was a jungle. Yeah. And I'll be walking through the jungle. I've forgotten that.
And even it can open up a way of sharing. So I'm finding that kids are missing their friends.
Yes.
And we're doing FaceTime and Skype and Zoom when we can, but that can be a tricky way to relate when you're used to playing tag or doing parallel play with blocks. So, you know, maybe you have your adventure of rescuing the unicorn, and you, take a little video of that and share that with a friend, and then they make a video about the unicorn's next adventure and send it back. Or if you feel comfortable and it's a friend close by, maybe now that you've rescued unicorn, you drop it off by the letterbox of your friend, and it has an adventure there that can then be shared. So that could be a way of cultivating connections for children who aren't able to be at kinder or school at the moment.
Yeah, that's a lovely idea, and you're also getting them out of the house by sharing that, by dropping them. So that's fantastic. That's lovely. I love that.
I don't know, one of my friends might find a unicorn on their doorstep soon, because I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah, and my sister also, who lives in a small confined place, after we spoke and we talked about the obstacle course, she's loving that, and her daughter keeps on changing it and swapping it, and as you said, coming up with different stories. So that has been really nice, and just going around. So she, my niece has drawn different obstacles and going around and jumping. It's been fantastic. That's good.
And if you have some outdoor space where you could use chalk to draw on concrete, chalk's pretty cheap at the $2 shop. Or if you have indoor space, you could use some masking tape. You could do a hopscotch, or you could do this is the island, and we all have to work together to get to the island. There's a lot of games. You could draw a rainbow and then or a tightrope and walk across that. We're doing home learning at the moment, and there's lots of different experiences of that at the moment, but I suppose keep in mind that you can be encouraging kids in their literacy and numeracy skills through their play. So you might get outside and draw numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and a bit like musical chairs. I play the music, everyone dances around. When I say a number, you all have to go and stand on that number. And then we're going to jump 3 times if it's the number 3. Or for slightly older kids, some of those old school games that we played when we were young, like What's the Time, Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
And Mr. Wolf says, oh, it's 8 o'clock, and you take big 8 steps, or 8 teeny tiny steps, or 8 big steps, depending on the size of your space. And you can be practicing some counting and some numbers that way while moving around. Because it's good to break up tabletop activities with getting some whole body movement. It helps kids stay well regulated in their emotions.
That's great. And I was also thinking, you know, the drawing numbers that you mentioned earlier, I was also thinking that it could be done even with letters if you wanted to, you know, to do that. So
letters, shapes, colours. Even some words. So if you're learning to spell, maybe you're doing bat, sat, cat, hat. Maybe you could write some words out in chalk and then walk toe to toe around the edge of the word. There's lots of different ways you can get moving while you're thinking about letters and numbers.
That's good. And you know, the other thing, I'm shocking when it comes to drawing, but I'm thinking for things like cat, for example, in small words, short words, you could even have the drawing at the end of it and getting the child to spell it out and call it, and they may be drawing it. So that's once again another way of connecting with that coordination and different aspects of that learning as well, and following instructions. That's good. That's great. Would you have any other concerns that parents may have or struggles? I know that it is keeping active is a huge one that we're seeing. And those are fantastic tips. So my sister is certainly going to be watching and implementing some of these. Are there any other struggles that parents are having, or that little ones might be sharing with you? Do you think that would be helpful for people?
Yeah. I'm finding that kids, some kids are homebods and kind of cruisy to be at home. Some are really missing their friends. So finding ways to help young kids connect with their friends and with their special people. You know, a lot of families are getting tech savvy and using video conferencing, but I'm also wondering about making, drawing, telling stories, and then either electronically or physically passing it on. So one little person was a bit sad about Melbourne's show not being on. And I said, well, could you make a show bag and share that with the friends you're missing? So she was going to decorate a show bag with drawing and make some little things to put in there and then give it to a friend. So again, that's a activity that's using her literacy and maybe her number work. Okay, well, if you put 2 lollies in this show bag and 3 lollies in that show bag, how many lollies do we need all together to make our show bags? So that's one idea for kids and their connectedness. Something else, I suppose I work with quite a few families where children might have additional needs. And so learning, everyone is different in the way they approach their learning and the kind of supports they need to help them learn best. So I'm sort of saying to parents, if you're getting work coming through from school for the home learning, it's okay to get in touch with your teacher and say, that's not quite working for us. We all know that teachers are under a lot of time pressure. They've had to make massive changes in the way they teach children very, very quickly. But if you're looking at the work for this week and going, whoa, that just doesn't really suit how my child likes to do things, then I think feel confident to get in touch and say, can you adapt that? Can we have a paper version? Can we have a hands-on task? Can we have that a different explanation because that isn't quite making sense?
Yes.
It's okay to speak up.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Grace. One of the things that I'm hearing from friends who are home learning, and my own experience as well, is that teachers are very flexible and very open. They want you to reach out because
Yeah,
ultimately they don't want this experience to be a negative one for anyone, the children or their parents. And they understand that parents are parents and they're not teachers. Even for those parents who happen to be teachers, children ultimately see parents as parents, not psychologists or not teachers. So we also as parents have struggles. So reaching out to teachers, that's a very good point to remind parents that they're there to help and support children
yeah,
and us in that home learning environment. Yes.
yeah. And when children are in a classroom, the teacher might be giving a brief explanation of, we're writing a story about chips today, everyone. Now they see and they hear that someone missed part of the instruction, or someone's a bit dysregulated today, or someone's not sure what to do. But when they're online, unless it's sort of a live instruction and children are on the video, they may not see what's happening. So in a way, parents and carers are the eyes and ears to get back to the teacher and say, oh, we need the instructions a different way, or we're not feeling confident about this, or
Yeah, right. And I think one last point, I think it's important to try and be kind to ourselves as parents and to children. We're all learning. All of us are learning. Politicians are learning. Teachers are learning. Parents, children. We always, as psychologists, tell parents and encourage our clients to put themselves out of their comfort zones. I think we all have done that to one extent or another. So I think remembering to be kind and to one another and to each other, I think, to ourselves is important. So thanks, Grace. That was great, as always. So thank you so much. I'm sure that our community will hugely benefit from that.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.